Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Starving Podcast. This is your host, Justin Romer, and I'm going to go through some of our sponsors. Our first sponsor is GenoPalette. They're a genetic nutrition company that analyzes your genotypes, tell you exactly what foods that you may metabolize better than others in terms of protein, carbs, and fat, and what vitamins you might be deficient in based on your DNA. Also tell you a variety of sensitivities that you might have. So if you're looking to get more information about how you can eat for your genes, which we feel truly is the future of nutrition coaching, head over to the link in our bio and use code CBG for $20 off your order. Our second sponsor is X Endurance. They're a third-party tested supplement company that have everything for people that are looking to target health as well as performance. A variety of protein powders, creatine, and their signature extreme endurance product that helps buffer out lactic acid. So if you're looking for some high quality protein powders or other products, head over to the link in our bio and use 10% off. Get 10% off your first order by using the code CBG. Our third sponsor is Performance Sleep. So this is the most comfortable mattress that I've actually ever slept on, and they're extremely affordable. If you're looking for a new mattress, head over to the link in our bio and use code CBG75 for $75 off. Our last sponsor is CBG Online Sports. This is an individualized nutrition company that really wants to help athletes and clients get to their goals as fast as possible. So if you're looking for an individualized and one-on-one approach, head over to the link in our bio, go to CBG Online Sports, and get 15% off your coaching. Today we have a special guest, Tracy Tucker. We're going to be talking about the art of coaching. So please stay tuned.
It's science.
Hey everybody, we're here with the Starving Podcast. We have a special guest on today. Her name is Tracy Tucker. She has her master's degree in exercise science and specialty in nutrition and wellness at Liberty University. She is a nutrition coach and programming coach for CrossFit athletes and other athletes at CrossFit Syracuse. And today we're going to be talking about the art of coaching as it pertains to both the performance athlete as well as the client that is looking to improve their health and fitness and have other goals that, may not, be prospering them to the highest level, but they want to improve in other ways. So Tracy, how's it going today?
It's going good. Better now that I'm on here.
Excellent. Yeah, it was interesting actually. We connected sort of through Justina because she is one of our new coaches at Consistency Breeds Growth, and I asked her, do you know what this is? Oh yeah, I know who that is. And she said she had met you before and that you also had a background in nutrition and CrossFit and training. And I was looking through your profile and I thought, wow, this will be a great person to have on a podcast. And I'm glad we finally got you on here and we can chat about how we work specifically with clients and athletes. So thank you for coming on today.
Absolutely. I love Justina. She's a super hard worker. And I always loved her when I got to see her in the gym. So I'm happy she's with you guys and that she had good things to say so that I could be here today.
Absolutely. So I think that everyone has sort of a approach specifically that they use when they work with clients and athletes. And it is our methodology, at least at Consistency Breeds Growth, that sort of way that we work with clients changes based on their current mental outlook, on how they view their goals and where they want to go, and all the way down to the genetic level, right? So I think that it's important to start the podcasts and give people an understanding as to what are some things that some clients may experience that are going to alter, how a specific coach might work with them, and why a cookie cutter plan, for example, may not work for someone that is giving or providing different feedback, which we would call, I guess, an athlete-centric approach,
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first question sort of is, what are some ways that you can start to understand and listen to your clients and use the feedback that they're providing you to elevate their programming or their nutrition or whatever it might be?
Great question. I think the first thing that needs to be done is having a really good onboarding process with a new client. So in that process, I have a client intake form, as I'm sure many other coaches do, but really extensive in the sense of learning about their previous experiences. So if I'm working with a nutrition client, I want to know what they've tried, what they've done. Have they worked with other coaches before? What did they like about that coach? What didn't they like about that coach? What do they look for in a coach? What characteristics do they have as a human? If they're very analytical and they like data, I want to give them protocols that has more data, more charts, more graphs, and use things like that. I think having those discussions right off the bat can save you a lot of weeks of figuring things out. Whereas if you have all that up front, you can come up with a game plan immediately. And then also keeping it that client-centric in the sense of what are their goals? Let them steer the ship, and you just kind of like guide them along the way and make sure they don't bump into anything, and keep it safe. I'm really into using like rating scales as well. So if we come up with like a marching order for the week, I ask them, out of 10, how confident do you feel that you can get this done? 10 being like no issues, it's basically automatic, it shouldn't be a problem. 0 being like, LOL, coach. And they, if it's less than a 7 or 8, like I automatically adjust it, even if it's something as small as a baby step. I think it's really important as our job as coaches to make them feel successful and meet them where they are and keeping your expectations in line with theirs.
Absolutely. So yeah, definitely using the assessment phase to really gather lots of information about the person that you're working with. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, if you're taking an athlete-centric or client-centric approach that you're just a lazy coach. It really means that you're trying to figure out what they need from you. And it could be that it becomes less athlete or client-centric over time to say, look, I actually hired you to tell me what I need to be doing without, all of the feedback. You know what I mean? I guess it really depends on who it is that you're working with and how. Because we have some athletes, for example, that they just want to put in the work. Right? Higher level athletes that are like, look, just give me the work. This is what I want to do. And obviously we're still getting feedback from them, but it's a lot less than some other people that may say, okay, yes, on a scale 1 to 10 today, I'm feeling this encouraged that I'll be able to finish this workout in a time cap, or I'm feeling this encouraged that I'm going to be able to go to this wedding and not drink a glass of wine, for example. And this sort of navigates us into self-efficacy. And this is a principle that I talk about with my athletes quite frequently. And self-efficacy in general is, to define it, would be one's ability that they think they can perform a given task, right? And for someone like Michael Jordan, well, he thinks he can do whatever. He could touch the sky, right? But a lot of people aren't like that. And I think meeting athletes where they are and understanding their perspective on particular things and giving them moderate to difficult tasks and not tasks that are like insanely difficult that they're not going to be able to do is a lot more helpful. And then also providing like focused feedback, like sharp feedback, like, oh, your muscle ups aren't good, or you're having that glass of wine. You just need to try harder. This doesn't really provide any focused feedback. So these are some of my thoughts, at least when it comes to the assessment phase, the athlete-centric approach, and also self-efficacy and improving an athlete's self-efficacy so that their mind lines up with what the body is capable of, really, Absolutely.
When you were talking about, the client being like just kind of head down, loves to work, loves to grind, and it's just very like, tell me what to do. I can relate to that even as myself as an athlete sometimes, but I think there's so much more growth to be had if we can like lean away from that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I always want to give clients tools for their time without me, right? I don't believe in like 4 or 6 week fixes or even group nutrition a lot of the times, because it's that tends to be more of that cookie cutter approach, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I try to provide them with those tools of like keeping it so that they're learning something, because if I'm just telling them what to do, there's no like actual learning happening. It's like a monkey see, monkey do. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay too. Like you said, some people like need that for periods of time, but as long as they can like pick their head up and make sure that like learning is being done along the way, I think that that's really just important to acknowledge too.
Absolutely. Yeah, the biggest value in hiring a nutrition coach, and we tell this to all of our clients, is really that they're going to be able to handle their nutrition after they're done working with us. Like, they become a coach for themselves. They may not be able to become a nutrition coach for others and delegate others on the amount of macros they need and calories they need and how to deal with different situations in regards to the pandemic and how they should eat now that they're in quarantine. But they can navigate themselves through the coaching process. And these are the tools that you were talking about from before. I think that that's extremely valuable. And if you can educate your clients on what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, they'll gain a lot more trust for you in the long term.
Absolutely. I think like you just hit the nail on the head. Like it's the why is so important in the sense of like we are providing this service to a client. And even though we're telling them things that might be second nature to us without even thinking about it, and we know there's a rhyme and reason for every single thing we're doing, but if we're not communicating that to the client, it's not fair to them, and they should feel comfortable enough to ask why we're doing this. Like I always tell my clients, like if I don't explain, please ask why. Like you need to be as in this as I am, for this to work successfully, right?
Yep.
One can't want it more than the other. So I think that's really important to have that open communication with, even for the little things that you might think already make sense and someone might not need an explanation for.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we resonate with that a lot and completely agree. And I know that, you're a nutrition coach, and this can be a real struggle, especially for people that have been so frustrated with themselves for so long about, weight loss, for example, is one thing that comes up quite frequently with people that we work with. And I know that you have specific methodologies that you use that are revolved around the term do not harm when it comes to clients that are looking to hit weight loss goals over time. Could you speak a little bit about what the do not harm methodology that you use and what are the tactics that you use to avoid this?
Yeah, absolutely. So that I try to keep that my number one rule with coaching, because I feel like it's our job to look at the person's health, number one, no matter what their goal is. And when I say health, I mean overall health, not just how they look, how they feel, like how they look in the mirror and what they see themselves as, but, just their emotional health, their social health, because we have to cover that and just keep it in mind, because sometimes the client doesn't always do that, especially if they've never done that before. I think it's really just important to keep that light on it. So some things I really try to be mindful of is dietary periodization, in the sense of going through phases of diets and being really strict to those with my clients, no matter what happens, because their health to me is number one priority. So, if they come to me underfed and I need to like reverse them up to their maintenance calories and we get there, like if they come to me underfed and they still want to lose weight, I'm not going to put them in a deficit right away. It's just not going to work very well. So we're going to work to our maintenance level calories where they could still see some potential weight loss. And then they're going to feel amazing, feel awesome, so that when we enter that deficit, we do it in a much more healthy way and a much more comfortable way for the body, where the hormones are restored and everything's working again, metabolism-wise, and everything in the body is like trusting what the client's doing. And then just making sure we're not in that deficit for too long, in the sense of I really try to keep it around 4 to 6 weeks as best as possible, and then working our way back up to the maintenance level, and then, entering that surplus if we need to, if they want to add a little muscle, and then just kind of revisiting those phases accordingly, I think is really important, and not something I always see practice, which makes me so super nervous. And it's hard because, clients don't always know that. Like, why would they know that, right? It's something that's very confusing, I feel like, and not always portrayed well. So, a person that comes to you new could be in a deficit for years and not know it, So I think just that's my biggest health concern when it comes to do no harm, and just making sure your food language is appropriate. I think really anyone that's shaming you for your food choice should be ashamed of themselves, because if you're only reinforcing certain food terms, it's making the client think a certain way about food. So if they come to you and they tell you they had a slice of pizza, and I go, oh my God, why did you do that? It's only reinforcing that thought of that slice of pizza being bad. And that's not the case to me. At least that's not my philosophy, in the sense I really try to emphasize food is not good or bad. That pizza has probably just more carbs and fats. So to make it a more balanced meal, let's add in vegetables and protein. Why don't you have lean protein and vegetables first, and then allow yourself to have the pizza,
Yeah.
I think those are the biggest things that I really am mindful of, and I'll continuously stop my clients in their tracks to fix, because I want to see that change. So I'm going to do the best that I can to enforce that with others.
Yeah, this is all good information. I feel very similarly to you, and we used to not take that approach at CBG. It was more like, okay, no cheat meals, none of this. Like, we got 8 weeks. We're going to be, boosting the metabolism, metabolic rate specifically, and obviously elevate those hormone levels, and then put you at a caloric deficit for the latter 6 weeks, and then we're going to readdress and see where you're going, And, this all or nothing, it turned out that, our adherence rate for dieting in particular was above 75%, which is above the average. But since we've taken more of an approach where it's not all or nothing over the past couple of years, our adherence rate has improved tremendously, and the results are the same, if not better, for those clients that have that adherence. So, I think that it depends on the structure of your coaching and how you plan things. So, for example, if the plan was ahead of time, right, to have a meal before a party, okay, and then go to that party and then come home and have your other meal, but instead at that party you had multiple glasses of wine and pizza, okay, then that's a fail in our book. And we have to allow the client to, they already know this, right? So we're not like, you're a failure, like, what are you doing, right? But we have to at least tell them, okay, so what can we do next time so that this doesn't happen? Because we had a plan, that plan failed. Inevitably, if this happens again, how do we know that this is not going to happen again? What do we do? Or what do we do when we're at the party to make a more balanced meal, as you said? I think that this is extremely important. I do see a lot of coaches out there, which I just can't get my head around and agree with, is that it's sort of the philosophy that, you can eat however you want during the whole holiday season. It's almost like it's sort of a double-edged sword in some ways, and I think if we use the science to our advantage to incorporate going back to maintenance calories for a day, which can be extremely beneficial for a lot of people in terms of long-term adherence and weight loss, right? And if we use the science in that way, it's extremely helpful. But if we just tell our clients that, you know what, it's the holidays, it's your time to eat whatever you want and do whatever you want. And unfortunately, I see this a lot actually on social media. And I think a lot of coaches can do a better job of planning ahead with clients. Say, okay, we want to go back to maintenance calories. This is how we're going to do it. This is the day we're going to do it on. And let's stay in communication throughout this process. Let me know if you have any questions about, if you did make a mistake, how we can correct for that mistake, whether that's fasting in the next morning meal. For people that don't have any issues with, that strategy, or what do we do to adjust the macros for the rest of the day? These things are extremely important. And like you said, that trust between the athlete or client to come to you and provide that information seems to be extremely valuable and can help the coaching process tremendously over time,
Yeah, like I think it's important to note that, I really try to be mindful and ask the question, like, what do you have coming up this week? What can I help you with? Because I think some people don't realize they can use us in that advantage sometimes. Like, I hate hearing after the fact that they went to a party and I didn't know where I could have helped, and for whatever reason that might be, But I think I loved that you brought that situation up, because I think it's important to know they go to this party. Like you said, it's really, really important to have a game plan for things. And then they have that experience at the party, and then you just completely dissect it. And if they can come to me telling me one thing they would have done differently, then I say you've already learned from it, and now we know what to do next time to make sure this doesn't happen again, right? Yep. Because I really try not to think like if you fail, I try to think like you win or you learn, right? Yeah. So let's learn from this situation. But I think it was the way that you said it was like, okay, well, if we had this game plan and you didn't do it, what's going to stop it from happening again, right? So it's really, really important to I try to ask the client more questions to lead them to the answer I'm looking for, right? So it's like, I know what would have helped her done this, made this different, had the outcome be different at the party, but I need her to know that. So I can't tell her, because then she's not learning. So I keep asking the questions to lead to that answer for her to have that aha moment. Because then if I'm having the aha moment, I'm not keeping my coaching client centric, right? Right. So I thought that was really important to bring up. And then when it comes to the holiday season, I know what you mean about seeing that on social media. I think it's we live in a very extreme world, so it goes from one extreme of the end to the other. And I think when I talk to my clients about the holidays, I kind of leave, again, some decisions on them, in the sense I encourage no logging or tracking, just to reinforce we don't need to do this 365 days of the year. If you think we can't take off, the 13 or 14 national holidays in your birthday and still have success, we have bigger issues to talk about, right? But I think it's important to reemphasize that doesn't mean you just go off the wagon, or whatever term you want to call it, where you just, binge eat out of control. You encourage we've learned what your plate should look like, and let's think about what's going to nourish your body and the choices that you make when you're eating and you're not logging and tracking. You've done that long enough, how much food your body will need at this time for whatever we're doing. And if you it's just kind of refreshing, I find, for clients to take that away a little bit, but then really encourage not just a free-for-all, because then you're almost implementing with logging and tracking that we're restricting and then we're binging when we're not. And I'm really not about that in any way when it comes to food. I don't like restriction anywhere. Again, do no harm, right? So I'm also a fan of appropriate diet breaks. If I have a client that's been logging almost 3 digits in MyFitnessPal, it's time. It's coming to a time where we just remove it, because that should be a tool. We shouldn't use it as a crutch that we have to have it. I don't for me personally, there was a time I didn't know if I knew how to eat without it. Right? Yeah. So it's just being realistic and keeping that in mind, because again, we want them to be able to do this at those situations where they're at parties or they're at their friend's house, and I'm not right there next to them to help them make those decisions,
Yes, agree completely. And I'm glad you brought this up about the MyFitnessPal. or tracking in general, whether it be through MyFitnessPal or another application. We recently, well, not recently, I'd say it's been a few years, we've completely got away from it. Not because we don't find that it's a useful tool, but we found that, at least through the way that we coach our clients, that when they stopped working with us, they would stop logging into it, and they wouldn't know how to prepare their plates. So instead of it seems like the methodology you use, you teach them both at the same time. You teach them how to prepare plates appropriately based on portion sizes of food and what things may look like, and using the app sort of to bridge the gap between understanding what how many calories specific things are and what the portion size of those macros may be for a particular plate. We do the same exact thing. We just don't use MyFitnessPal as that tool. And I think regardless of what methods and ways that you're using, whether it's through a blueprinted or templated version, which is what we use, or a MyFitnessPal that tracks the calories and macros, it's important to get to a position where you can start eating more intuitively. Because I think personally, for me, I could not track in an app for 10 years. I couldn't do it. And when that realization hit me 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, how can I expect my clients to do this all the time if I'm not doing it all the time? So there has to be these breaks, and that's super encouraging and refreshing to hear that other good coaches like yourself are also using the MyFitnessPal as a tool, especially to teach people how to eat and what different calories and different things are, but also teaching them how to use it to segue them into eventually, hopefully, not being really reliant on it at all. Like, if the app vanished tomorrow, what would they do? Would they still know how to eat appropriately, right?
Yeah, because it's like scary when you're so tied to something and then you like remove it. It's almost like you didn't even realize how much you relied on it.
Yeah.
And, with some clients, they don't use MyFitnessPal at all. So
Right.
I have some clients, like you said, we just kind of focus on like one meal at a time, getting it to look a certain type of way with the proper portions, proper macronutrients, micronutrients on the plate, make sure everything looks really good. And then maybe if like, usually once they have that down and they feel so successful with that, they're asking me for more. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want. Yeah, that's what I want to hear, because then I know they're that much more invested. So I'm like, okay, it's time to level up. Let's implement this app. Let's learn how to weigh and measure our food. Let's see how it goes. And then some clients like really appreciate that in the sense that, they learn the specific food types and they didn't realize certain foods had certain macros, and it's really eye-opening for a lot of people. So I think it's really helpful in that way, but then it has to come to a point where we're okay removing it. When it starts to become a time when it's not, like you really have to reevaluate the protocols you're doing and the tools you're using to keep their health and their mental like relationship with food okay first.
Yeah. Yeah, this is excellent, and I'm glad that we're on the same page with this, and that hopefully people that our listeners can really start to understand that this is really the future of, and the value of a one-on-one coach, to have that access to be able to go back and forth with a coach and learn how to do this for really the future. And one way that we typically with all of our clients, every single client we work with, they have our personal cell phone number. They can call, text, FaceTime, whatever they need at any given point. And we sort of went over this a little bit already, but some people need a little bit more accountability than others. So we have systems in place that will allow them to sort of give them more bandwidth and really relieve that barrier of communication between us. I find it extremely difficult, and I do want to talk with you about this a little bit, going from coach to business, and as your company grows, how you have to make changes to help more people, because we're transitioning into that now, and I believe that you are where our company was 3 or 4 years ago, not on an intellectual level, but on a business level. So I definitely want to talk about that a little bit more with you. But I definitely want to finish up what we were speaking about before, which was what that is sort of the bridge between performance and health. And I think we both have clients that are aiming for both, and they're not synonymous. Some people think that they're synonymous. So for your health clients, when we talk about the do not harm number one rule that you have, what are some mechanisms or biofeedback that you receive from your client that lets them know, like, okay, we've been in a deficit too long, we need to move away from this, or they're having a response to this food, we need to figure out an alternative solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, every week, like you said, accountability is huge in this. So I have check-ins every week with my clients, and then they also have 24/7 hour access to me via text and email. So I really try to be available to them as best I can. And then with regards to feedback, I always ask them every single week how their like biomarkers are, their sleep quality and quantity, activity levels, hunger levels, energy levels, and digestion. I'm sure you guys do that as well. Just to kind of make sure, because I think sometimes people, it's hard to differentiate between what their brain is feeling or thinking and then what their body is actually doing.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have those discussions and create that awareness, because some people don't even know how many hours of sleep they're averaging. Like it's really good to start that from the very beginning, to create that awareness week to week, to really hone in those cues that their body is giving back. And then I feel like I also use some like Google trackers, which I'm sure you've seen before, that has them rate that every single day, to just really correlate with maybe what macros they're using at the time, to be able to show them, like, look, your fiber was at 5 grams today. No wonder you're feeling bloated or having some digestive issues,
Yeah.
And it kind of just creates that awareness for them. But when it comes to, finding out if they've been in a deficit for a long time, I take into account, their maintenance level calories. I use a calculator to figure that out. There's like a free one through Precision Nutrition, or even a TDEE calculator, right? But the thing that I don't think coaches or people in general, when they're trying to figure it out themselves, tend to not be as realistic about their activity level as they need to be, right? So, even though CrossFit sometimes is only a 20-minute workout, it is the most intense 20-minute workout that you're going to do that day, right? So it's important to think about intensity, not only duration, and then also your NEAT value, right? So like how much activity you're doing throughout the day. Someone sitting at their desk compared to a server who's on their feet 12 hours a day, the activity level is going to be different, right? And just being really real about what your activity level is, I think, is really, really important to figure that out. And your body will tell you, if you're eating the same amount every day, but you're trying to eat a little bit more and you're still losing weight on the scale, that's a surefire sign you're not eating enough food yet, right?
Yep.
So I try to really listen to those things. I think blood work is a great way to go too. I'm very aware of my scope, right? I'm not a licensed nutritionist or a registered dietitian, so I really try to be aware of that, in the sense, like, if you have a medical condition that you have to see a doctor for, like, please go see them and give them my info if you need. I'm very into supporting. I think it takes a team for each person sometimes to be successful in their goals, and there's nothing wrong with that, because I look at my client and think that we're a team in that way too. So I'm always willing to share my contact information with any practitioner that the client is working with to optimize that person's health. But I think it's really important to note too that you said, it's not just because you're focusing on your health doesn't mean you're going to have great performance. And just because you're focusing on performance does not mean you're the healthiest version of yourself.
Right.
Because there's a lot of performers doing some unhealthy things to be at that level. And that's okay, because that's their goal at the time. But I hope they are periodizing it correctly throughout the year to not be in an overstressed situation for a long duration of time, so that we don't do more harm on the body that's already being done.
Yeah, this is a good point. And I like that you brought up how you connect the subjective data that you get from your clients with the objective data. So like, 5 grams of fiber, this is why you're having digestion issues, for example, or your poop's looking a particular way, or whatever it might be, right? That
Yep.
they're having trouble with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is very insightful for, and it allows them to trust you more because you're lining up legitimately science with what it is that they're doing. And you're like, yeah, this is how this works,
Yeah, and they don't know that, and it's almost like I wish the information that's free at our fingertips every day wasn't so sugar coated and like looked sexy all the time, because it's not. It's very black and white, and it's our job though to point it out to them, right? Like maybe they don't know how much fiber they're supposed to consume, and it's sad that that's not like known information and not more of a priority in our world, but hey, while they're with us, I think it's our job to provide that information. And again, that might be information you think is second nature, but they might have 4 kids, work 10 hours a day, have other things going on. They don't know, right? So if you can kind of point that out, again, it's more buy-in from them too. They're like you said, they're trusting you, they're understanding you, they're following you, and it makes other things that you have to bring up, they're a little bit more coachable in that way too.
Yeah, I agree. This is awesome. And I'm glad that you run things in this way and you communicate with your athletes on a one-on-one basis, because I think a lot of companies out there that are 10, 20 years old aren't doing this. They have the volume to support whatever it is, the money that's bringing in. The upside is that they're able to help a lot more people, but not as many people as sort of on a percentage basis. So I'm able to help, let's say, 8 to 9 out of 10 people that sign up with us. They're able to help 4 or 5. But on the large scale, they're helping, 400 to 500 people a year, and I'm helping, 40 to 50 to 100 people a year. It's a big difference.
Right, but the quality of there's different coaches out there for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's different coaches that want to get better at certain things, right? Yep. And I commend those companies that can handle the 400, the 500, and they've grown themselves to that level, yep. Right? But the quality of service you're providing to those 40 or 50 people, I would guess, is life-changing, right? Because you're committing so much time, you're so invested, and to me, there's nothing better than that. Like, I'm only one person, right? So 400 and 500 sounds intimidating, and I'm sure a coach doing that by themselves would be quite burnout. Yep. But to me, like, just the outcomes that you can impact on those 40 or 50 people there's nothing better than that. Like, I would do that for free if I had the time, right? Because it's so worth it to me. But that might not be other coaches, and that's okay. And that's why we have other coaches too, right?
Yep, I agree. I think on a person-to-person basis, you're more impactful when you're providing the one-on-one coaching. You're able to build relationships and sometimes even friendships with a lot of your clients. Whereas if you only allow email access, this is just not possible. It doesn't mean that there aren't these massive success stories for companies that work with 500 people a year. It's just they don't have the same connection with their coach. And I definitely want to speak with you a little bit about this, because as I said, we've been in business about 7-8 years, and you've been nutrition coaching for how long has it been now?
Only about like 2 years,
Gotcha.
I'd say, just coming up on 2.
Right. This is an exciting time for you. It's an exciting time for us, especially during the midst of the pandemic and people constantly concerning themselves with health, as they should have been all along. Right. And I'd love to speak a little bit about the dynamics of a young company and you being the company at this point versus a company sort of in the middle, and then a company that's at a really high level in terms of the amount of coaches that they have and things like that. And for us, for example, some things that we've changed in the past that it seems like you still may or may not be doing, and I can sort of get your perspective on this, is one thing we didn't do when we first started was post transformation pictures of people. Over time, and I made a post about this actually recently, is over time we realized when we were looking on social media that it becomes extremely difficult to get or to reach the people that we want to reach in our demographic without showing people where they potentially want to go, which is through a transformation photo, especially if they can resonate with the person that may be a same age as them, or a woman that they see like, oh, that woman's like in her 40s. She may be also struggling, with weight loss during menopause, and she had this transformation. The reason, obviously, that we didn't post those for so long was because of the principle of self-efficacy that we talked about before, where a lot of people may see that and decide, okay, this is actually extremely inspiring, and they are now in our direct messages, and we're able to help more people. The downside is that some people see that, and especially people that really don't have a healthy relationship with themselves may find themselves even more discouraged that they can't do and be and look the way that they want to look. And there are a number of other things that transformation photos have a downside on. And obviously a lot more. There are other upsides as well. And I'm wondering what your perspective on this is, because as we grow as a company, we're trying to make sure that we can help as many people as possible. We still provide the one-on-one coaching, but we want to make sure we do it the right way. And since the company has continued to evolve, the people that we've helped transform are really proud of themselves, and it's good to give them that recognition through a post online or a transformation photo to show the world, like, look, it's possible, you can do this. And it really comes down to, your relationship with social media, and it's several rivers of complexity. And I'd like to know your thoughts as a coach and as someone that is trying to help more people out there, get more people to work with you. What is your approach to this and the dynamic of using social media as a tool to get people to, find you and work with you so that you can help them?
Yeah, so I love that. I love your perspective, and it's good hearing it from someone more experienced in my field, right? So it sounds like you've had quite the experience with this, not having them, now you're having them, and everything in between, right? And it sounds like you've really tried to cover every perspective to ensure you're doing the right thing, right? And not my way is the only way or the best way, right? It's just the way I've done it. So I will start with saying I do offer progress pictures and measurements with each client, but it's not a required service. It's based on the preference of the client. Mm-hmm. I just make the mindful approach to not promote it. I think it's important to offer it because that accountability really works for some people. When people start feeling results, they want to stay in a little bit longer. They feel better. They keep moving the needle further and further, right? Wherever their goals are. So I totally respect that in that way. I just don't like to promote it for me in the sense, like if I look at a picture of someone, I'm going to use arbitrary numbers here, but if someone's like 500 pounds and someone's 90 pounds, that doesn't tell me anything about their health just by looking at them, right? Yeah. But I can guess what lifestyle behaviors aren't being done or are being done at that weight, right? So I just try to keep that in mind. And I found like that the progress pictures work for clients, and the feedback I've received so far is that the clients appreciate that I'm not sharing their pictures because they don't feel like a poster child or that we're just like using them in that way, not like I said, I like to kind of keep it between us because it's like no one's business in the sense like I feel the same way about, people asking what's on your plate, right? Like mind your business, mind your plate. It's kind of like, it's very like a very personal thing. And I think emotion is behind a lot more of this whole realm of nutrition coaching than people realize. So just keeping that in mind. But it's not to say that those pictures don't help people stay on track and get closer to their goals a little bit faster. But it just doesn't seem a focus in my promoting. When I come to promoting, I really like to put out like free content as best I can to show people like, this is what I've learned. And I'm still learning. So this is the new information I found out. And I want to share this with you because like I said, someone might not even know how much fiber they're supposed to have a day. And it's like sad to me that that's not more of a priority. So I'm going to do my best to make it a priority to put that out for people. And I think also when it comes to transformation photos, it's also really, really important to know what client you want to work with, your ideal client, right, in your business model. So what does that client look like? So that those are the people coming to you, those are the people you're attracting, and then you can decide to work with that person or not. And it's, of course, you want to reach as many people, and I think I have quite a great like diversity of people, ranging from, you know, the competitive athlete to the 70-year-old woman, you know. So it's really awesome in that way, that I can kind of adjust my coaching to that. But I think, you know, if you are someone that wants to help people find food freedom, posting transformation photos might not be the best route, like my scenario, right? But if you're a business that's looking to help with performance, and that's like you're very driven with that, then maybe, you know, that's your route.
Right.
And that's okay too. And so maybe, again, using different promotion tools to better assist your business would be more accurate than just kind of saying like, you shouldn't do this or you should do that. It's like, no, maybe just not for what I'm looking for, right? Or what I'm promoting.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great answer. And, you know, we've come from a place feeling, and we've had all those same thoughts that you've had. I think it's extremely important that if you do share the transformation photos of your clients, make sure that you let them know or ask them if it's okay that they are shared online. This is
Absolutely.
extremely important. So if you're going to do it, this is the way, and the steps that need to be taken before, because some people have jobs and other things in their life, or they may just feel like they're not comfortable with you sharing their photos, which is completely understandable. And as you mentioned, one of the downsides of the photo is that it's only representative of the transformation. And that's
Mm-hmm.
it. It's not representative of health. It's not representative of mood, stress, depression, happiness, anything. Any of the feelings that that person might have, or that are behind the smile. You can interpret them, try to interpret them from the picture, but you actually don't know, right? And
Absolutely.
the transformation, in a sense, the transformation has very little bandwidth. It just shows you one thing, and that's weight loss in most cases, or muscle gain in most cases. So this is definitely, there's a gray area between this and to share and to not share, and it's something that, you know, it's important to recognize what people's goals are. So especially going back to the assessment, a lot of people will come to us and say, "Hey, like I want to be shredded, like I want to be ripped up." And then you ask them like why, you know? And they don't really understand the amount of work that it's going to take to get them to be shredded. Like to be shredded like a CrossFit Games athlete is extremely you know, like for some people they would have to devote their a majority of their life based on their genetic predispositions and other things that they may have going on, or their epigenome, whatever. They just may not be, their body just may not be in tune to hold that little body fat and look that way. And, you know, it's important to not, you don't have to obviously tell clients that they're never going to be as ripped as they want. That's ridiculous. But it's important to know why it is that they want the goals that they want as well. And some people, I would say most people, they just want to be accepted and they want to love themselves. And it's unfortunately the way that everything is portrayed with people on social media and people that are famous that legitimately have no talent, are these extremely good-looking people with a great body, and we try to mimic that. I think a little bit too much without really understanding what our real true goals are, whether that be intertwined with our family, our friends, and our life in general. So I think that that's just some important notes when it comes to transformation photos and what people should be thinking about if they're a coach or if they're an athlete, and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand, to have them understand that why. Because, you know, if it's to be accepted or to be whatever, I think it's sometimes people don't even know that that's the reason, right? You have to help them discover that. And so I really try to work from the inside out. And then the food is like a bonus. I say that a lot. Like the food is a bonus if we get to like the deep rooted stuff you got going on, right?
Yeah.
So I encourage things like journaling, meditating, spending more time with yourself to really like understand that and really develop that. Because I'll be honest too, there's a huge misconception sometimes when people think they want to get shredded and toned, whatever that looks like for them. They have this image of this body in their head, right? And we do a calorie deficit and they get to their lowest body fat that they've ever been, and they're super excited in that way, but they're like, I still don't like look the way that I want, right? And I'm like, well, there could be multiple things going on there, but I'm guessing the image you have in your head, it requires a lot more food. Like your muscles aren't developed enough yet. They're super underdeveloped. The fat is all gone, but you still don't have this like super jacked up body, right? So now let's work our way back up and beef you up a little bit and see if that's like what you're looking for, because I think everyone thinks they have to lose body fat to have these like ripped muscles, and it just doesn't work that way. So I think that's important to note for the audience. But I think also knowing like, why do we want to look that way? Like, who looks that way in your life? Do you respect them? Like, do they have a lot of attention? Is that what you're seeking? Like, to really just like having those really hard conversations with people, because getting to one body type or another might take a lot of sacrifice. And I'm sure you have to have those conversations with your clients all the time. And it's even talking about maybe this job that you've been working at for 10 years isn't appropriate for your goals. And like, how much do your goals matter? But if it's a job where you're only getting 4 hours of sleep and, not even having time to eat here and there, like, it's like, I don't know if this is good for your overall health. And that can be really hard to have with someone, because, people have bills to pay and whatever, but that's like the meaningful conversations that are going to change their life, that could put years onto their life. Right.
Yeah. Which at the end of the day is priceless. I think that what you said makes a lot of sense, and really making sure your clients understand like there are going to be lots of sacrifices. And a really good point that you made is the fact that people may not look the way that they imagine that they're going to look, even if they're had the lowest body fat percentage ever that they had. They may just not have the supportive muscle mass to look the way that they see people online look, And it's just they have to go the exact opposite of the way they just went. They have to actually put themselves in a caloric surplus and gain muscle mass, and then at a later date go back to a caloric deficit to take off body fat. And this is a lot of work. This could, to put on 10 pounds of muscle and then take it off, this is 4 or 5 years for some people.
Right.
So it's important to understand that it's a process. Consistency is extremely important during this. And knowing your goals at the outset can save your ass a lot of time, to be honest. Because if you go in the wrong direction, you're gonna, you're gonna have to go back
more
up.
Time, right?
Yeah, you're just wasting more time, And it's good. I think people, if it takes people that realization, they have to put in an amount of work and go in the wrong way, it's not necessarily bad if they're taking off body fat and improving their health and the way that they look. It's just not the perfect look that they want, and I think this is okay too. It's sort of a stepping stone, but it's definitely important to recognize your goals ahead of time and what it is that you want to do and how you want to do it. The last thing that I'd love to talk about in regards to the art of coaching and how we work with people is still related to the business aspect, and this is using or getting clients and athletes all at one time. So either through higher bandwidth platforms such as using Wodify Rise as a leaderboard, sort of the CrossFit model, right? The CrossFit model itself is a volume-based approach. Nobody's and some gyms do better than others, right? They ask clients like, "Oh, what are you looking for? You're looking to improve your overhead squat. Okay, what is your nutrition looking like?" But the majority, at the end of the day, if you have 150 to 200 members, you're looking to provide a service to them in terms of the programming, a group fitness and community aspect, and that's sort of where it ends. And other coaches do better than others, obviously, but that's how the money is made in the CrossFit model. And some other nutrition coaches also do this. You see people, I've changed 5,000 bodies, download my app, and blah, blah, sign up today based on this one rule, or eat these Sculpt Nation, eat these 3 foods that you didn't know were can improve your testosterone, eat for your body, to all this stuff, right? That's online, and people can throw $1,000 at an ad and get people to sign up for this and waste their money, you know. For some people, it can be extremely empowering. It's all they need. For the majority of people, we feel that that's not the case. But my question is, as we're transitioning into sort of a larger business, you're really still at the cusp of beginning your business. You obviously have values that are extremely rooted into developing the client, which is great to see, because a lot of companies don't even start out like that, or coaches start out like that. But as we're shifting, we're obviously, as I mentioned with the transformation photos, trying to help as many people as possible with a one-on-one approach. And when you do these approaches with people where they're in a group setting, it becomes more difficult to do that, right? We just actually did a transformation challenge for 1 month, and we let people know at the outset, it's 4 weeks actually, we let them know at the outset, this is the beginning of your journey, right? This is the start of potentially you getting on track with your first mindful meal, so that you can make the changes that you want. You are not going to lose 40 pounds in the month that you're working with us. If you do, something is wrong during this transformation challenge, right? And through there, we were able to get a decent amount of signups. You know, we were able to reach a lot of people and work with a lot of people at one time. And with Justina and I, with the 2 coaches, we were sort of able to put platforms in place with automation in terms of a Facebook page to keep people more in regards to keeping them a part of a community, and Wodify Rise to use a leaderboard to keep people motivated for those people that want to do this in a competitive sense. And we tried to keep it as close to one-on-one as possible, and these people still are able to contact us as much as I want. It's a lot of work. It turns out to be a lot of work, and of course, we enjoy doing that because we're empowering people, a lot of people at one time, through a one-on-one coaching experience. But I'm wondering your take on, is that a good middle ground for people, or is it better to stick? What is your philosophy on sticking with just the one-on-one coaching, or what is sort of the biggest issues with people that are having people sign up with them that they don't have any interaction with their coach at all because it's all online and through these applications? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, congratulations on your first challenge.
It's good. Thank you. Yeah, it's
absolutely. It
still
sounds
learning
like
about it.
Yeah, but it sounds like it went pretty smooth, and you're figuring it out along the way. So it sounds like you put your best foot forward, and that's all that matters, right? So I love that your philosophy with it is that you really encourage them that this is the beginning of your journey. Like, this is just the first step, right? Like, because then you're like periodizing it again, right? Because who knows what they're doing or I don't know what they're doing in that challenge. So I'm guessing at least they're like really committed for those 4 weeks, and that gets them kind of like laser focused in. We are actually doing something similar. So at CrossFit Syracuse, my one-on-one coaching is called FoodRX. That's like the name of the program. Mm-hmm. That's just my like brand for it. And then this summer, we've put together like we called it the FoodRX Summer Camp. So it's a 6-week long challenge where another coach in the gym is running it, not me. And but I did help plan the design and the layout of the challenge or the summer camp, right? Where it's really, the client comes up with what goal they want by the end of the 6 weeks, and that coach helps them get there. So it is individual. It's very it is a lot of work, right? But I think with those, it's really important to have those. The good thing about those things is it's a group atmosphere in the sense they have people they can lean on. Other people are trying to do the same thing. They have a lot of support from other people in the same situation, not just from a coach. So having the leaderboard and having the Facebook group is really important. We do that as well. And I think putting out information, free information daily, is really where you can excel in those groups. It's a lot more work, right? But any pre-planning you can do before kind of saves you. And I think then it's nice at the end of the FoodRX summer camp, I'll come in and just talk more about what I can offer one-on-one. And then those that are ready to like kind of graduate to that level can come to me, which is, I think it's a great intro and gets people just aware of food, but I don't really appreciate like, it's really hard. I've done one myself, and coming up, like just doing, 40 people's macros on top of your own clients. And you can't deliver that one-on-one the same. You can't, because you're one person, right? Or even with two. And I think there's just a lot of magic loss in that way.
Yep.
And, you're not able to show the importance of periodizing in like a 4 weeks if they don't continue on. I think it's really important, no matter if you do a challenge or one-on-one, it's that coach's responsibility to provide an exit strategy, because this is, again, the person's health we're dealing with. So if you just put them through a deficit for 4 weeks and they saw the weight loss they wanted and they did an amazing job, and you say, you hit your mark, like, good job, see you later. It's kind of like, you're just leaving that person left in the dark. They have no idea what to do. They didn't know what to do coming in. They're not going to know what to do going out, besides doing what they've been doing, which is further going into that deficit more and more. And then they're going to, if they've been restricting the whole time, they're going to binge somewhere. So it's just really important, regardless if they're in a group setting or that one-on-one, to provide that information. At least for me, I sleep better at night doing that, regardless if they take it or not. At least you put it out there for them.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that's that's sort of the goal with the transformation challenge that we've done in the past, and we've done some at gyms, and then the one we're doing now is actually completely remote. It's not at a gym. And it's good to get a lot of people from a lot of different places involved sort of into one community. And I think that it is a decent way to bridge the gap between one-on-one coaching and, the people out there that have, 500 people sign up in their transformation challenge that they're doing. And then they don't really give them any direction or guidelines besides, here are your macros, here's a video on how to track your macros, and we're going to put you on this page so that you can communicate with other people. I think that the most important part when you're doing something like this is, as you said, it's a lot more work, but trying to make it as one-on-one as possible, and making sure that when people are done with the 4 weeks, that they've found out truly what their goals are, and if they're the same as when they started, they can obviously be directed toward a nutrition coach, and they can continue to process. Or if they're where they want to be, how do they maintain those goals? And at least for our one-on-one coaching, what we'll do is we have what we call our intrinsic phase. So this is where we have clients trying to eat a little bit more intuitively and not tracking anything and stuff like that, and but we want them to know and learn how to maintain their weight on their, with the help of a coach, but without having to track anything. And I think this is an important sort of phase, regardless if you do it that exact way or not. It's important for people to know how to do this at some point. And typically with our 16 weeks of coaching, for example, we do 8 weeks of an actual diet, and then we do 8 weeks of our maintenance / intrinsic sort of protocol, and I think that this provides a little bit more, insight into essentially how clients can get the individualized feedback from us after they're done working with us, and then from there sort of know what direction to go in after, as opposed to being blind as they are when they sign up for these challenges that are $20 or $40 online, and they just get blasted emails every day.
Yeah.
But I think the information is also extremely important. You need a way to also provide a massive scale of information to people so that they, since you have so many different people, right, it becomes important to, sort of figure out what the information of the collective people you have are, because you can't speak to every single one of them every single day, right? Yep. There are some women like in menopause, so you may make specific information about menopause, and that may not resonate with someone who's 30 and is a performance athlete. So you also have to make post information about creatine. So the more information you provide them, the better throughout their process. And we think that that's a really good tip too.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note, like, regardless if you're doing, the 4-week challenge or you're one-on-one, like, it's important to work with a coach regardless, especially with transitioning out or in either one, because it's like, okay, you can tell them the game plan, like, okay, we're going to reverse you up, 60 to 100 cals every 2 weeks-ish until you start gaining weight, right? But it's like, they don't also understand that if you have certain stresses going on, if you're a female experiencing your menstrual cycle, like if you haven't been sleeping well, maybe it's not a good time to bump that up. And that's where I think that accountability of a coach to recognize that and be really realistic about it. Like, they might be accustomed to getting not a lot of sleep and going hard in workouts, and that's their lifestyle. But like, it's the coach's job to recognize, like, just because that's normal for them doesn't mean it's okay. And changing macros right now would only put more stress on the body. So it's just really important to have that conversation, whether it's in the exit interview or the onboarding process, that like, this is why I'm here too. Like, I'm here to help you decipher this, like, together, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's extremely important. So if you're going to do these one-on-one coaching experiences, we're a big advocate of making sure that people are heard and understand the direction that they need to go to. And this kind of ties the podcast all together where we started, where is the self-efficacy, making clients and athletes feel empowered and making them feel successful. And it's extremely difficult to do that if you're just behind a computer screen. So I think that, that's extreme. That's where the power of coaching and the art of coaching really comes from,
Yeah, it's nice that this is all tied together and came full circle.
Yeah, it did. Absolutely.
You did that well.
I kind of just winged it, but it worked out at the end of the day. I think this for our listeners, whether not only for clients but also for coaches, I found that there's a lot of valuable information here, because some coaches are still trying to navigate their way through how they need to work with clients and get results from their clients. That should be the first step in every coach's experience. It shouldn't be making money. It shouldn't be offering this big transformation challenge and all this other stuff. You just need to get 5 people that you know, whether it be your mother, your father, your cousin, your friend, someone at your gym. Get 5 people you know, work with them, and prove to yourself that you can help them get closer to their goals. And that's where coaching started for us. I'm sure that something similar started for you. You didn't just run into a gym and say, hey, I haven't worked with a client before. I want to run a transformation challenge at your gym. Look, it's not going to work. You're going to fail miserably. You're not going to be able to help that many people, and you're not going to be confident in yourself as a coach and as someone, that can actually help people. So, you don't need a big Instagram following. You don't need all these other things. And just make sure you have your priorities in check, which is through the art of coaching, making sure that you make people feel successful, empowered, and get them closer to where they want to be. And I think you would agree with that.
100%.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we offered a lot of great general information about how we work with different people. Some things we're a little bit different in other ways, but at the end of the day, we're extremely genuine about the process that we take and the way that we work with people. And at the end of the day, we want to help people. And if you're doing that, you found, if you're a client and your coach is doing that, then you've found a really good coach. And if you're a coach and you're doing that, then you are a really good coach. So continue to stay CBG strong out there. We appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. And Tracy, we'll have to have you on so we can get into specifics of some other stuff in the future. And congratulations, this is the longest starving podcast to date. So
I told you I got the gift of the gab. So
I think we both do. So when we came together, it was like a perfect storm. So it's been a lot of fun, and we'll have you back on soon. We really appreciate you coming on the Starving Podcast today. Let everybody know where they can find you and your coaching business if they would like to work with you in the future.
Absolutely. So my services, I always offer a free initial consultation with anyone who is interested in learning more about my FoodRX program. So with that, you just head to my booking site. You can find that on my Instagram. My handle is Tracy Tucker _CFS. And then also you can learn more about my services, specifically about what's involved, pricing, all of that at CrossFitSyracuse.com/nutrition. And then you can always email me too personally if you want to just set up a call or learn more or ask me any other questions maybe that I could elaborate on for you at tracy@CrossFitSyracuse.com. And that's it. I think that's everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, there's so many platforms. So yeah, definitely contact Tracy if you're looking for coaching in the future and you're looking to elevate your life in some way that it's, you're going to have that one-on-one feedback with someone. Thanks, Tracy, again. We'll have you on again soon, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I truly appreciate you creating this space for us to provide more information to everybody. It was so nice of you to set this up for us.
Awesome, Tracy. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Science.